Let's talk home renovation tips here. Some of these you might know, some of these you might not. Let's get started right away here. So the first one's going to be when you do a home renovation of any kind to any room, you're going to be kicking up a ton of dust, right? Like you're going to do what you can to limit the amount of dust that gets around your home, but realistically, it's going to get everywhere. And you should do what you can with like poly tarps and plastic and things like that to limit that migration of dust. But you know what? If there's people living in the home, especially if there's kids in the home, you should probably invest in some things like some HEPA quality air cleaners, something that you can have in the room of the people that you're most worried about, specifically the kids. That would be a great idea if you're undergoing a home renovation, because it's not just the dust. Sometimes there's additional things that you're going to be kicking up. There could be mold spores or other stuff that you just don't want, you know, getting into the bedrooms and stuff like that. And despite your best efforts, it's probably going to happen. So get some portable units that you can wheel right into the problem areas, and then you can run these HEPA air cleaner systems in order to provide the maximum air quality where you need it the most. You might even go so far as to turn off your HVAC system if you have a forced air system for your gas heating or air conditioning in your home. You probably have cold air intake ducts, and these cold air intake ducts aren't the small ones which like the hot and cold air comes from, but this is the one that provides the air to the system for it to heat up or cool down. And those air ducts, these large ones, they're going to get a lot of dust into them, you know, and you can't just seal them off. Like, it's not like you can tape it up with plastic and go, good now, right? Well, no, your system needs that air in order to operate. And so there's going to be some times where it's probably going to be an advantage for you. If you're going to be making a big mess, go ahead and turn off your HVAC system until you get a chance to do the job and then perform the cleanup effort. So kind of attaching to the last idea there, sometimes it's going to be best to plan a messy renovation for an optimal time of year. Like if I'm going to be doing a system or a renovation where I'm going to have my HVAC system turned off because it's going to be really messy and dirty, well, it would be great if it wasn't like -40 outside or +100 and it's, you know, then you're battling these conditions as well because you can't really have your windows open readily. And depending where you are, your opportunities for having, you know, windows open for doing a renovation will change, but usually you're going to have optimal times of year where it would be less of an inconvenience to have all of the doors and windows in your home open and the HVAC system turned off. And if there is, that's the time of year that you should perform these really messy renovations. Not all renovations are a huge messy disaster, some more so than others. So save the really bad ones for that optimum time of year. I almost didn't want to give this tip because this, like, it should go without saying, right? So it doesn't, because I see it all the time. It's probably even the number one thing that I see people doing wrong when they're trying to take on renovations and they don't do this, let's say professionally, is you go and you start opening up projects all over the place. You're renovating the bathroom, the kitchen's ripped apart, let's tear out the floor in the living room. It's like, whoa, don't do that. You open one project, you do the project to completion, and then you close that out and you move on to the next thing. And you don't even just pick it arbitrarily. You have to choose these based on the chronological order that this project should be happening. And there's usually a way that makes more sense than another way. I don't want to finish one room, then move on to the next room and realize I have plumbing and circuits I have to run through that room I just finished. So you definitely want to plan ahead with your chronological order, but be very diligent about not making that mistake and just opening up projects all over your house. And now you're just living in a war zone and there's construction happening everywhere. And that can lead to some real downstream problems here, both like in terms of getting your house finished, but also just the mental stress you're going to experience living in that kind of clutter. Avoid that entirely. Open one project, work on that project, and finish that project. Okay, here's a great one. Take pictures of everything that you work on in your home. You open a wall to do a thing, take some pictures. We live in a digital age. You know, you used to have to take pictures and manually develop this and get, it's not like that anymore. Just have 1,000 pictures of your home. Keep it in a folder called Home Pictures. And you're not going to remember in the future. You think you are. We opened this wall. Look at this crazy stuff that we saw here. And then you close the wall and 11 years later, you're like, wasn't there something like crazy in this wall? What even was it? You're not going to remember. So take pictures of everything and maybe even have a logbook through any renovations that you do. Doing a bathroom renovation, start a bathroom renovation logbook and take a ton of pictures through the process. Kind of along those lines, when you're doing renovations, you're going to be dealing with electrical stuff, most likely like turning things on and off at different times. When you get to know your electrical system like that, it would benefit you greatly to start a logbook and keep that next to your main electrical panel. Like, panels are supposed to be labeled by code, like living room lights, basement plugs, things like that. It's usually not very descriptive. It's like 1 to 3 words at most. So if you have a logbook that you maintain, you can be a little bit more descriptive. Like, this circuit provides the basement plugs, the light in the crawl space, plus 1 outdoor plug. Like, you know, it would be helpful to have that. Maybe even build like a circuit diagram of the way that your home was wired. Boy, that would be useful information, and you could acquire it for free slowly over time as you do home renovations and get to know the electrical system of your house more. Okay, here's a tip. This is something that I definitely do. So I've got these renovations, a couple of different things. I've got the thing I'm going to do next, then I've got a couple more down the road that I know I'm going to get to these things soon. I kind of shortlist for each of these projects. I don't like create an entire chronological timeline, but I kind of shortlist for each of those projects that I'm going to be doing in the foreseeable future, 1 to 2 years perhaps. What are some of the big ticket items that I'm going to need to do this project? For a kitchen renovation, I'm going to need some expensive fixtures. I might need some expensive tiles, things like that. Same with a bathroom renovation. For a living room renovation, I'm going to need like lots of drywall, and I'm going to need some kind of flooring material. And it would benefit you greatly to shortlist a couple of items for each of your major projects that you have planned. Identify what the big ticket items are that you're going to need to buy to do these projects, and then keep your eyes open on the used market. Now, I don't necessarily mean like reusing stuff. You could if you wanted to, but there's a lot of times that somebody will go to the hardware store, they'll buy a thing, get home, be like, oh no, it's not it, and they just toss it in a pile, and that thing's never used. It's brand new, but it's worth pennies on the dollar compared to what it would be if you went and bought one off the shelf today. Further, things like you could buy tile and you didn't do the project. Now you got all this tile, it's heavy, you got to move it, get rid of it, sell it for pennies on the dollar. Or you had some left over from a very big project, and that small amount they have left over is enough to do a small bathroom or another project like that. If you have your eyes open for these high value items, you can pick them up on the used market. Make sure that you're not buying garbage. You don't want to buy somebody's, broken something and now you're making problems for yourself. But like new products, unopened products, things that are hard to break, like hardware, things like that. If I have to go buy a box of nails to, put new shingles on my roof, it's going to be a lot more money than if I manage to pick up 3/4 of a box of roofing nails on the used market. That's pennies on the dollar. So that's just thrifty and thrifty shopping that you can apply to home renovations if you take the time to just identify the projects you're going to do, the order you're going to do them in, and then the high value items that you're going to need to do each of those projects, because now you can have that on your radar when you're shopping the used market over a 1 to 2 year period. Well, that was a bunch of tips. I hope that was helpful if you're planning for a home renovation. If it was, just remember, I'm technically Steve, so it would technically help you if you like this video and subscribe to this YouTube channel. So if you do, I'll see you soon.